You are listening to the Cattle Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your resident technology dork, and with me, as always, is my partner,
Rocco.
Just Rocco. See, he doesn't even have a title. He doesn't do anything around here. And that's why I make him suffer through.
Well, you can call me king.
I could call you king, but that would mean nothing, because you're no king. No. We don't even set you up as a petty dictator. It doesn't work either way. See, because if you could, you'd order me not to tell you the engineering joke of the week. See, you tried to get out of it by being king, and it's not going to work, Rocco. All right, ready for this?
I'm ready.
Why do programmers prefer dark mode on their systems?
Why?
Because light attracts bugs. Huh? Yeah. See, I like when you actually laugh at these. This makes it even better. They're awful jokes, and yet you still laugh. All right, folks. What are we doing today? I know what we're doing today. So today, we're going to do something on today's show that we have never done before, and that is get into a little bit of politics. Now, look, before anybody out there listening panics, we're not going to go down the dirty alleys of, who's right and who's wrong on any particular topic. But we do need to talk about current realities, right? And the impact that they're likely to have on the construction and design industries. Now, look, whether you agree with it or not, right? The fact is that the current administration has slapped major tariffs across the board onto nearly every nation on the planet at this point. And I get that a lot of people hate that. And some of you listening think it's absolutely necessary. And that's not what I want to talk about. Because good, bad, or otherwise, right? This is the environment that we all have to work and run our businesses in. And we can't afford to ignore the impact that tariffs are going to have on this industry. Look, even the most ardent supporter of the president's tariff plan, you have to admit that it is going to have an impact on the costs of nearly everything in this country. But I think that the one area that is being overlooked in all the big discussions on this that you see on the TV and all the people yelling at each other, they're all ignoring the impact that this is going to have on building. Look, any and all building is going to be affected by this. And I want to start the people listening to this show kind of thinking about how it's going to impact your work lives. So, Rocco, right? You deal with a really wide range of clients. Have you seen or heard people expressing any concerns over the potential impact from these tariffs on the economy in general?
Well, I mean, it's early in the game, right? Here we are the week where the tariffs were just announced. So I think there's just uncertainty. That's what's what I'm hearing at the moment. So there's a lot of we'll see and we just don't know, and I don't know what he's doing, and the crazies that go off the walls, and but it's just uncertainty is what I'm hearing at this current time.
Yeah, I catch a lot of that too. And uncertainty, never a good spot to be in when you're dealing with, billions of dollars. No one wants to be uncertain about those numbers. So look, talking to numbers, right? Just so that, the people listening don't think I'm crazy, I want to start with some basic numbers that everybody can kind of go online and you can check out for yourself. All right. Just you can go ahead and fact check me. I'm okay with that. So let's look at the percentage of construction materials that we use every single day that are currently coming to the U.S. from other countries, right? So let's start with structural steel, right? 23% of the steel that we use in buildings is imported, right? And how about lumber? Almost 30% of all the lumber that we use in construction comes from outside the USA. Cement, 22% imported. How about mechanical pipes, ducts, tubes, things like that? This is by far the worst. 60% of all HVAC and plumbing materials are imports to the United States. Right? And those are just the basic system components that we use every day. Right? And a massive amount of them come from other nations that have all just been tariffed, meaning the prices are all going up to cover those tariff amounts. There's no getting around that. Right? If we average that all out, right, just add those numbers together and divide them out, it means that roughly 33% of all the materials that we use to build things in this country are going to go up in price. Again, that's the bare minimum, right? There's a lot more. I'm just covering the basic materials here. And look, the bulk of those materials I just talked about, they're coming from Canada, Mexico, Brazil, China, Turkey, and Japan, right? Now, only 2 of those countries, Turkey and Brazil, they get the lowest 10% tariff increase. The others are much higher, right? With Canada and Mexico are at 25%, Japan is at 24%, and China, that's a whopping 54% tariff levy. And if we average those rates out, right, you're getting a price increase of 25% of costs. So if 33% of our total material goes up by 25% in cost, follow along with me on the math, that means that a $10 million build just went up to $14.125 million. All right, and if you think price changes like that aren't scary, you are a much braver person than I am. And I also want to point out here, right, like that's only the material costs. A number that completely blew my mind. I didn't realize, maybe you guys know out there, you realize nearly 2/3 of all of our construction equipment that we use is imported. That means that you're going to be paying way more for everything from your hammers to your cranes and your trailers too. Any way you cut it, the real world cost impact here is going to be staggering. So Rocco, are clients already looking for ways to offset these cost increases using efficiency improvements and workflow changes, or has it just not really gotten to that point yet?
Yeah, it hasn't gotten there yet. Like I said, until now, it's been kind of on and off talk. Is it happening? Is it not happening? How much is it going to go up? And, it's there's just been uncertainty. But, I think it's certainly going to change discussions moving forward over the next couple weeks and months for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So look, folks, the simple reality is we're going to build. We're always going to build. I mean, sure, it may be at a slower rate. Maybe it's going to cost a ton more, right? Which means that clients are going to be a lot more particular about watching costs and efficiencies and, keeping their designs down to, base minimums, right? To lower costs. But, as Calvin Coolidge said, the business of America is business. We've all heard that quote. And you're going to need to accomplish work at these higher prices. And you are going to have to do it a lot more efficiently with less overhead, fewer people, and way tighter profit margins. The next few years are going to be a mad scramble of readjustment in the construction world, right? To see who survives and who goes under. And I think that, the real question that you guys need to ask is, what can I do to be sure I'm one of the survivors? Unfortunately, I do not have one simple, all-encompassing answer, but I do have thoughts on how you guys can cut costs, improve efficiencies, and make do with fewer staff if that's what it all comes to. And that's what I kind of want to get into on the second half of today's show. All right, so stick around, folks, and we'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. Hey everybody, this is Jim and Rocco with Zen Tech Consultants, and we wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the training options that we have available here for you guys at Zen Tech Consultants. We offer public training classes as well as private custom courses for all of your software and design needs. So, Rocco, why don't you tell the folks what kind of training we offer and how do they reach out to us to get it going for them?
Yeah, Jim, we cover everything from Bluebeam to Autodesk to Microsoft to BricsCAD to civil site design training and beginner through to advanced level topics. Like you said, both public and private courses. If you got a group and want to run a class specifically for your team, we can help you. So just feel free to hit our website. We're at zentechconsultants.net. That's ZENTEK, or you can give us a ring, 866-824-4459, or even drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
There you go, Zentech Consultants for all of your technology training need. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking about the impact of recent political decisions on the costs and capabilities of doing business in the design build world. And in the top of the show, right, I gave you guys, all the big scary numbers on how tariffs can throw a hand grenade into our current processes, and the potential negatives that we're all going to need to address. And in this half, I actually want to be a little bit more positive. All right, and I want to talk about some of the things that you can start looking at to offset some of those impacts. As listeners of the show, right, I don't think anybody out there is going to be surprised at all when I say that technology is the best answer that you have at your disposal. Now, when I say that, I do not, I'll stress again, do not mean stupid gimmicks and buzzwords, like AI and robotics and the Internet of Things. That crap makes for good reading and it draws clicks for, the trade magazines. But none of it is practical or reliably usable right now in any big way. And it really isn't likely to be in the next decade, probably at minimum, maybe longer than that. What you need to focus on are the technologies available today that can help you get your projects done, faster, smarter, and for less cost. And that isn't always easy to do, right? But, it's finding efficiency improvements with construction technologies, or what we call Contech, that are going to save all of our butts over the next few years. So Rocco, have you seen an increase in people who are wanting to talk about Contech for better workflows and efficiencies over the last year or so?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's, like we say often, right? The construction industry has been one of the laggers in adopting technology. Now it's kind of like people want to put it on speed. Like, why isn't the technology 5 steps ahead? And they're looking to AI to solve all their problems. And to your point, AI is going to get there eventually, but it's not going to solve all your problems today. You still need to chug through, and so. Yeah, technology is certainly key to saving time, money, and becoming more productive.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, and I think that there are really, I'll say, 3 big Contech areas that I see as having a big impact against these increased costs. Right? There's construction management systems. There are CRM for construction tools. And the one that, to me, I think personally is the most important, it's construction data analytics. And let's talk about those, right? Let's start with the construction management systems. You look, tools like, Procore and Autodesk Construction Cloud, and there are plenty others out there. They're not new to the industry, right? But they're going to be vital for success in this new market. And look, the reality is that up until now, those systems have been kind of the purview of large GCs. And the rest of us get into them only when we have to interact on those projects, right? For companies like Turner and Skanska, right? We'll do whatever we have to do and get to whatever system they tell us to because they have the big contracts. And that is going to need to change. A construction management system's ability to track details and forecast costs and handle change orders and bids and estimates and schedules in a centralized real-time structure, it's not going to be optional anymore. They're just going to become absolute necessities if you're going to survive in what's basically going to be a dog-eat-dog pricing world. The big issue here is the technical capacity to implement and structure these construction management systems to your specific needs of your company. Look, the truth is the software companies that develop them, they can't really help you get to that point, right? Listen, they do a great job in getting you up and running with the basic system use and where are the tools, right? And they got some, nice recorded, how-to videos on some common work processes. But to get, practical use, guidance, workflow, process, guidance on the things you do every day, you're going to need a serious technology consultant like Zentek, who understands more than just the software, right? You need someone who can work with you on the day-to-day, design build functions, that your staff need, to be able to increase efficiencies, right? Software resellers, they just can't help you with that, right? You'll need to work with people who have years of experience in the actual process of building things. So, Rocco, how many of our clients come to us looking for somebody who understands, the technology of their business because they're just not getting that from, a simple software vendor, right? Who only knows, hey, here's where the tools are in our software and not what those tools really do.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the reason why we're around. So it's every day that people reach out to us, and folks are not looking to be sold on new software because they've got so much already at their fingertips. They want to learn how to make better use of what they have, or get rid of software to cut costs, and so that's why we have a lot of the conversations that we do. At all levels of management and up.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. We've done a bunch of these shows on just that, right? So look, I think that the next thing that everybody listening has to start looking into is a customer relationship management or a CRM system. And these are in daily use in the business world, but they are dramatically lacking in the construction space, right? And I think primarily because they have this reputation of being, CRM are sales tools. They're for salespeople who are selling toasters and whatever else. And some of them are, but there are some absolutely amazing, CRMs out there for the construction world, right? Tools that are specifically designed to help you, bid, quote, track emails, track RFIs, build schedules, create proposals, and integrate with data from both, your construction management and your accounting system, right? So that everything is synced and kept up to date, in real time, right? Tools like Top Builder, right? Which is the system that Rocco and I work with most often in this space. They're just brilliant at organizing and streamlining the insanity of data that is the daily workflow of a construction job. Look, it's a key to efficiency, organization, and automation, right? I mean, I just think everybody should be looking at CRM systems at some level. And the last type of system that I want to discuss is construction data analytics. Look, analytics to me it's the most important thing to hit our industry in forever. Analytics is about pulling all of the different data, right? The costs, the schedule, the bids, progress data from the actual job site, right? Financials, right? And putting all of those systems together into simple graphic dashboards and visuals that you can use to make effective management decisions. Right? So, the idea here is that instead of spending weeks sometimes putting together reports that, combine all of that data into a table in Excel, right? That's, hard to read and it's out of date before you ever even see it, right? With an analytics system, you get all of that information in real time with no effort on your part. It's just there. You click on it. It shows you what you need. All right. And you don't have to dedicate staff, and weeks of time to put it all together for you. And look, large firms, right? Large construction firms have been working in this direction, for the last few years, right? And they've been putting together reports and tools like, Microsoft's Power BI, something that we work in, and related systems, right? To read from, their construction management and then go get me some data from my accounting system and so on, right? But that requires hiring data analysts, right? And spending months and months, putting together, visuals from scratch, right? It means a lot of setup time and cost and staff, to make that all happen. The good news that, one of the things I want to talk about today is that there is actually, just an absolutely game-changing new tool that, Zentech is the premier consulting partner for here in North America. And that tool is called Contractor BI, and it handles all of this for you. So, essentially, the way that this works, right? Zentech comes in, we connect Contractor BI to your current construction management, accounting, CRM, or any other data source, even Excel files and SQL databases, anything that you have from all your other software. And you immediately have all the real-time information you need on any aspect of, your company, your project, your processes in visuals that you can easily understand. And look, you can go in and you can use Contractor BI with one of its 50 plus, out of the box dashboards, right? Or we can go and take the ones that you like that come out of the box and tweak them to your needs, right? Or Zentech can just build you a completely new dashboard with all of the formulas, structures, data, forecasting information, and graphics that you need, right? That is built to your specific needs, right? It's this type of analytics is just, it's incredible. It lets you finally put together the data that construction executives need, right, into one simple, easy to access location with up to the minute data, right, that gives you more efficient, processes, and it helps you control your costs. And it just organizes the data from multiple locations into one central platform. And it's one of those, game changing, paradigm shifting type of things that comes along once a generation. And honestly, I think the timing of this could not have been better with all of these increased tariff costs coming our way. And I will seriously suggest to everybody listening, shoot Rocco an email or give him a call and get a demo on Contractor BI just as soon as you can. It's absolutely worth your time to look at. So, Rocco, how do people reach out to you to set up a demo, or if they want to have a deeper discussion on that?
I think they just go knock on your door.
Knock on my door? You want me to give them your address so they can come knock on my door?
No, you could always drop me an email. It's ROCCOP at Zentech Consultants. That's ZENTEK Consultants.net. Hit up the website, ZentechConsultants.net, or give us a call, 866-824-4459.
There you go. Give Rocco something to do instead of sleeping all day for a change. So look, folks, at the end of the day, right, where we've been driving with this whole conversation today, you're going to need to be faster, more accurate. It's going to have to cost less, and you're going to have to do more than your competitors if you are going to survive the financial storms that are just headed our way. And Contech, it's the only way that I can see to do that with any reliability, right? You need to make your workflows run better, not bog them down. Like Rocco was saying earlier, you don't want to bog them down by throwing more software that your people can't effectively use, right? And look, even if it becomes necessary, right, and cutting staff and costs, right? Sometimes we have to do that, but no matter which way you cut that, it just makes it harder to get your work done, right? With less money and fewer people, right? You have to be able to do more with less, not less with less. And you're going to have to do it at lower margins. And a good consulting partner is going to help you make smart use of the right contact. And that is the only answer that I think is going to work for any of us, right? So with that, folks, we are going to bounce out of here and let you all get back to surviving the madness that is the construction world. And we'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody, today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.